Hello everybody, I am Benjamin Merz from the AFNet, and in today's podcast episode we are talking with Professor Götz Thomalla about the e-stroke study. Professor Thomalla is head of Department of Neurology at the University Medical Center Hamburg Eppendorf and the coordinating investigator of the e-stroke study. Welcome, Professor Thomalla.
Thanks, hello.
Professor Thomalla, so how did the idea for the e-stroke study came to life?
Well, I think it was a coincidence. We have the experience that there are a lot of patients with atrial fibrillation suffering from stroke, and usually we give them standard treatments, oral anticoagulation, but there is a high risk of recurrent stroke in these patients. And then there came from cardiology the positive EAST-AFNet-4 study, which showed that restoring sinus rhythm is an effective treatment option in patients with atrial fibrillation. But it had not been used in stroke, and so we thought, well, this might be an easy idea to just try and test this in stroke patients.
Mm-hmm. So what is unique about the e-stroke study?
So the unique thing is that there hasn't been any evidence yet to show that restoring sinus rhythm in patients who recently suffered from a stroke has a benefit. And of course we don't know if it's safe. This is one of the major concerns.
Mm-hmm. And how is the study structured?
Well, it's going to be a large international clinical trial. It's a randomized study where patients are randomized to standard treatment, which comprises all state-of-the-art treatment of vascular risk factors and oral anticoagulation and so on, or to the interventional treatment, which is the aim to achieve rhythm control, also to start rhythm control as early as possible after an acute ischemic stroke. And we will have several participating countries with a lot of centers to achieve the large number of patients that we need.
So when a patient has a stroke and he has atrial fibrillation, there are two different departments involved. This is cardiology and neurology. How does the collaboration between those two work?
Yeah, that's an important question. I mean, cardiological problems like atrial fibrillation are one of the key risk factors or causes of stroke, and that's why we are in close contact with colleagues from cardiology anyway when it comes to the diagnostic workup after stroke. But especially for this trial, it's very important to have a good collaboration with cardiology people, not only in designing and running the trial, but also at the individual centers, because the treatment to achieve rhythm control, so to restore the sinus rhythm, is mainly done or initiated by cardiology colleagues, no matter if it's drugs, antiarrhythmic drugs that are given because they are the experts, or of course if it's atrial fibrillation ablation, then the cardiology experts need to do this treatment.
Mm-hmm. So when we have interventions like ablation and we hear things like stroke, it sounds like there are some risk due to the severity of the events. What are potential risks during the studies and how are they being addressed?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I think this is one of the most reasons also, the most important reasons why we need a specific study addressing the topic of rhythm control in stroke patients, because we know now from cardiological populations that this works. So treatment for rhythm control prevents from adverse cardiovascular outcomes like recurrent stroke, or in this case first strokes, and other events like myocardial infarct, heart failure and so on. But the population that we are looking at here, acute stroke patients, they are vulnerable populations. They are frequently elderly and frail, and also with a recent stroke they have big lesions in their brains, and this may make them vulnerable to, for example, hemorrhage, intracranial hemorrhage, especially when specific treatments are given. So I think the colleagues from cardiology usually are a little bit afraid of treating patients who had a recent stroke because they know about these risks. And for example, if you do an ablation, you need to provide anticoagulation also to have effective anticoagulation during the treatment, and this may go along with increased risk of hemorrhage. So we don't know actually whether rhythm control in general can be safely treated, can be safely initiated in patients with a recent ischemic stroke. Mm-hmm. And that's what we're going to test also in the in the e-stroke study. And of course, the monitoring, this is part of the clinical trial, will be very strict. So the patients will be under close supervision by the study teams, and any events that occur will be collected and recorded and reported to the study centers, and there will be regular meetings of the Data Safety Monitoring Board. So all these measures you do in a clinical trial to ensure that the treatment is safe.
Mm-hmm. And in this study, it's a bit unique that you involve patient organizations. And how would this work with the patient organization structured?
Yeah, I think this is an important factor which the scientific community is increasingly understanding, that it's important to involve the patients in designing a trial in a way, but also, of course, in asking for their needs. So we have very early, when we started planning the study, we have been in touch both with local patient organizations here in northern Germany, but also with the European Stroke Association, Patient Association SAFE, and just ask them about their views on such a trial, about their needs, what they would like to have incorporated in such a trial. And then also we will ask them to sort of accompany the trial and providing their input, maybe also do some dissemination and telling other patients about the study, to make sure that we really meet the patient's needs.
Mm-hmm. So what is the estimated timeline for the e-stroke study?
Yeah, that's a good question. The predictions are always difficult, especially considering the future.
Yeah.
But especially for clinical trials, so you never know how things are working out. The good thing is we have been working the whole year on preparation of the trial already, and we just recently got the approval from the European Clinical Trial Information System, so from the European regulatory authorities via the CITES. So we are now allowed to start. We have the ethics approval for the European countries. And we also have the ethics approval for Australia, which will be one of the other international countries. So we are ready to go from a regulatory and ethics perspective. We're currently finalizing all the trial infrastructure, like the electronic case record form, and we are, hopefully we'll be able to get the first center initiated and the first patients enrolled in the trial in early November this year.
Mm-hmm. And then somewhere in the future, you will get some results. What effects do you expect from the early rhythm control therapy?
Yeah, of course, this is the main question, and we expect that. I didn't answer your question on the timeline regarding how long we are planning to do the trial. We have calculated that we will be able to complete the trial within about 5 years. Mm. Maybe will be faster, maybe it'll take a bit longer, but nevertheless, the patients are there, so it should be not so difficult to enroll enough patients. And then what we expect, that's the hypothesis that we started with, is that early rhythm control will be able to prevent adverse cardiovascular outcomes and recurrent strokes in patients who had a recent stroke. So in a patient population which is highly has a high risk for these events, and hopefully in some years we'll be able to show that the patient population that has been randomized to early rhythm control suffers from less strokes, less other cardiovascular events, and so that then in the further future this may be part of clinical practice in the routine care.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that would be my next question, because sometimes from getting the theory out of studies to put things into practice takes time too. It's like, how could the results of the study influence the future clinical practice? Yeah. Maybe even regarding the work between cardiology and neurology.
Yes, of course, this is the crucial question. A positive trial is nice, but we need to get the results on the road, so to say, in the clinical practice so that all patients can benefit from this. And I think regarding this, e-stroke has a very good setting, because the treatments that we are testing, they are available, they are already there, they are approved. So in cardiology, they are used already. It's just about showing that they also are of benefit to our patients, or the stroke patients. And if this is shown, so we don't need to wait for any approvals, it's no new drug that need to get into the market, we just can start immediately. And the collaboration with the colleagues from cardiology who are using these treatments already will help us to get the guidelines on their way, where we usually are working together, and also to get the treatment to the individual patient in all hospitals, because cardiology has been involved from the beginning and the stroke physicians have been involved.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was really insightful about the e-stroke study. Thank you, Professor Thomalla.
Thanks a lot.